Two, and we want to go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm hanging in there. I keep hanging. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I'm assuming that we have folks who have been able to join virtually through the link. This is our spring town hall. We had our last town hall back in November of 2024 around homecoming time, which was largely a town hall that we had done in recognition of the alumni who were on campus. We also recently had the Faculty Staff Institute, where I had an opportunity to kind of introduce a bit of my 30, 60, 90-day plan for this semester. And probably within the past couple of hours or so, I'll be honest, for the past 5 hours, I have been revamping this presentation in response to the latest information that we are receiving from Washington around the flurry of executive orders that have come out of the new administration. And so what I'm going to do today is just kind of go through these, because I can't really in good conscience use the same presentation or even anticipate the same schedule that we were working from, given the reality of what we're confronting right now. And I think it is particularly vital that we understand the importance of all of this for us as a community, not losing sight singularly of how important this is for our students, right? We have to understand and recognize and always keep front and center the experience of our students, the education and support for our students. So I want to always speak about these things with that as our top priority. I appreciate the importance and significance of this for our workforce, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but we are here to educate and support our students. And I want to make sure we have an eye towards that. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is only just a few slides, but I want to kind of put front and center what we are facing, what the known implications are, because again, right now, I am anticipating that by the time this presentation is completed, there will be more updates about implications, impact, moving forward, and whatnot. So the main thing I want to talk about today is the memo that came out from the Office of Management and Budget, calling for a temporary pause of all agency grant, loan, and financial assistance programs. And I have since received confirmation that this will not currently impact student loans, financial aid, Pell Grants, and whatnot, because the memo specifically indicates that it does not impact funding to individuals. Now, again, Pell Grants aren't made to individuals, but, they are awarded to individual students. So already analysts are highlighting really how confusing the memo is, how poorly worded it is, and it is really just throwing not just higher education, but every sector that is impacted by federal support, which is just about everyone, into a bit of chaos. And one of the things that I am thinking about is, to kind of pause on subscribing to the chaos, right? And really just dealing what we have in front of us and working through the possibilities. And so that's what I want us to do together as a community. But this temporary pause of federal funding and federal support will absolutely hit us for any programs that are funded through federal support. I'm looking at Dr. Darwish. Our Title III funds are going to be suspended. And this is just a pause that is supposed to be only until February 10th, okay? But there is just this disruption, there is this uncertainty. We don't know if it will extend beyond February 10th, if the pause is lifted, what does that mean? But as it stands right now, and what we are not uncertain about, is that the federal government intends to create some form of disruption in the current level of funding and support that is provided. And again, keep in mind, this is not just impacting HBCUs. This is higher education writ large, and this is certainly, again, any and every sector that is supported through federal funding. So there is a lot of chaos and uncertainty out there. Another area where we are particularly concerned about the ultimate impact of this is obviously our EPA grant that was funded through the Inflation Reduction Act with President Biden. It appears that clean energy efforts and the Inflation Reduction Act, along with the infrastructure bill, both of these are direct targets of this administration. And part of the reason why I included this paragraph with that highlighted section, Kim Torres is no longer at the institution. Some of you may have known that by now. But before she left, she did a wonderful job of ensuring that we did everything we needed to do to submit to the EPA our budget submission so that we could secure our award notice, which made us a little less vulnerable, okay? But again, if this is entirely dismantled, right, the funding that was provided through the Inflation Reduction Act and that highlighted section, to the extent permissible by law, cancel awards already awarded that are in conflict with the administration priorities. Okay? The canceling of awards. So that to me does signal that that grant could be in jeopardy. All right? So again, we have to really rethink how we are going to move forward. And while we did anticipate that the whole landscape was significantly going to shift, we didn't quite know how it was going to happen and when what was going to happen. So I don't want to really overreact, but I did want to hit pause myself on kind of announcing some new initiatives, announcing my vision for the future, because I'm just not really sure of what we are working with. And I definitely do not want to step out here with certain promises or any kind of certainty about the way forward until I have more clarity about what is actually going to be happening, particularly with some substantial pockets of money through the EPA grant, through Title III, through Title III carryover. Right now, we have a delegation of individuals who are visiting with the Department of Justice, where we receive some support through for programming against domestic violence against women. Again, that funding is in jeopardy, okay, because it is gender-based, it is a focus on women. And I have to just really regret that we are all in this situation right now, that we felt it back in November, we recognized the kind of challenges that we were probably going to face, but here we are, and this is it starting. But I can't remember who said it, I don't know if it was Churchill, but you never let a good disaster go to waste. And I really do feel like this is a real call and challenge for us to reimagine ourselves. I do want you to, sometimes when I am kind of confronted with a bit of fear and uncertainty, I will allow my mind to just kind of spiral into the worst case scenario. What is the worst case scenario we can imagine, right? And the worst case scenario we can imagine is these sweeping reform acts dismantle financial aid, okay? if the administration succeeds in eliminating the Department of Education and makes radical changes to aid disbursement, Pell Grants, right? What does that mean for us? What does that mean for higher education? It would be very hard for me to imagine small private liberal arts institutions that serve our population surviving that for any period of time if financial aid is entirely dismantled, given our current population, right? And unfortunately, Ed isn't here, and we really haven't had a chance to really huddle and get our heads around this. But at some point in the near future, I do want to share with the community, again, if we look at all of these scenarios, our dependency on financial aid, okay? Our dependency on, even as a private institution, we are tuition dependent, but we have to recognize that a large portion of our students' tuition is comprised of federal support, either through Pell Grants or through financial aid, okay? So that is ultimately the worst case scenario. Can we imagine a Dillard that serves students that aren't aid dependent? Can we imagine a Dillard of students who can afford to fund their education either through private grants? Right now, that's not the population we serve, okay? And it would be difficult to really pivot to that market in the short term. I think it's possible because as we go through some of these executive orders, and that's really going to be my whole presentation this morning, kind of walking through the executive orders and talking about what is the potential impact of these federal actions. One of the things that I found reassuring this morning, and there's just, again, a kind of flurry of emails and messaging and people trying to get clarification, but there was an email that came out from UNCF today that gave the assurance that this does not impact Pell or federal aid, and it did point out that, and that's what I had at the bottom here, that it is temporary and no president can just stop law. So Pell Grants are a part of law. Title III is a part of the Higher Education Act. And again, while he can pause on the disbursement of Title III funds, they can't just roll it back entirely. So even right now, some things may be halted or postponed. We still have to kind of really get together and work through this, but it will be more difficult for all of these things to just be completely undone. So even as I kind of let myself entertain the worst case scenario, because I just need to kind of get there and be like, okay, what's the worst possible thing can happen? That's probably not going to happen, but we're going to have to get through these times. And we're not unaware that this is all meant to inspire fear and chaos, okay? Even as it has real impact, it's not just fear and chaos. We will have to figure out kind of how to make ends meet when we can't do federal drawdowns. We'll have to talk to the board. We'll have to look at the endowment. This is real. These have real impact. So it's not just about scare tactics, but I think we do have to think about doing business in a different way for the next 4 years, at least. I did have an opportunity to reach out to Nichelle Harper, who is over sponsored programs and who was doing this work during Trump's first administration. And at that time, they were suspending Title III carryovers, again, which are really important resources that we rely on Title III, and if we have any funding that's carried over, then we can apply that to our capital projects and infrastructure improvements, which are always so critical on our campuses. And that was suspended for 3 months. And then when it came back where those funds were available, the amount of reporting and the amount of accounting for every penny that was spent was a real tax on our personnel. So again, thinking about what we need to be prepared to do, talking to our finance office, talking to our CPOs, and thinking about how do we prepare for kind of this new way of doing business. But recognizing right now, this is a temporary moment and we don't have a whole lot of clarity about what's going to happen next. So the next set of executive orders I want to look at is the executive orders around DEI. And one of the things we should clarify is that, even though as HBCUs, we are not part of DEI initiatives, we are federally recognized, protected institutions as historically Black colleges and universities, right? So it's not like, okay, because of these DEI initiatives being suspended, they're going to shut down HBCUs. That's not what is going to happen. But again, the prior conversation about all of the support and all the funding that comes to us in different ways and our dependence on the federal aid program still renders us very vulnerable. The first one that we're looking at, illegal discrimination, restoring merit-based opportunities, that is kind of a throwback to the decision from the Supreme Court with affirmative action and really going after institutions, read higher education institutions with large endowments that are still trying to maintain a diverse population, okay? And ironically, I see this particular one as being favorable for us. I think as more talented and even resourced students who would have been drawn to and interested in attending those institutions, as they start feeling the pushback and the resistance from their capacity to be enrolled in like your Ivy League institutions, your Big Ten and things like that, that they will be more interested in attending HBCUs. But we have to be prepared to accommodate those students. All right? I mean, if these are families that are prepared to pay kind of top dollar for their students to be in some of the most selective, elite private institutions in the country, they have certain expectations, all right? Our students have certain expectations that we have not been able to meet. And so this market of students and families is going to be that much more demanding. But there is an opportunity there. All right, so I don't think it is all doom and gloom. I think that given where HBCUs are, our legacy, our resilience in the face of these types of headwinds, I think if we can pivot and really rally and work together and seize the moment, this could really be a rallying opportunity for Dillard. But it's going to take a lot to do that, okay? Radical, wasteful government DEI programs and prefacing. This is kind of anything targeting, things targeting anything that says DEIA. So you're going to see a lot of organizations and institutions removing all of this language from anything, any programs that are focused on equity, any programs that are calling out diversity. There is going to be a direct search for those things and looking at how those things are funded. We see this happening right now in the corporate landscape, right? How different companies are having to kind of, declare where their honor lies, whether they are kind of towing the federal line or whether they are doubling down on their current corporate practices that privilege a diverse workforce, okay? The initial recession of harmful executive orders and actions. So Biden had several executive orders that specifically called for federal agencies to have strategic plans in place to promote engagement with MSIs, HBCUs, tribal colleges, and whatnot. And so obviously all of that has been revoked and reversed, all right? So it just is this kind of comprehensive sweeping of all language of any initiatives and efforts that focus on DEI. But again, I don't think, HBCUs kind of exist very largely in this space, but have historically, been here even before this wave of focus on DEI initiatives. So I think that gives us a bit of, I won't say immunity, but not in the direct line of fire of DEI initiatives. Higher education and immigration, so we've been really looking a lot closer at what's going to happen to international students, what's going to happen with DACA. We really have to engage with our international student population. We have to look at how much more difficult it is going to be for students to secure visas. So again, not an area where we can really rely heavily on that flow being there. So if we can't recruit these students anymore, particularly in our athletic programs, where will we recruit students from to fill these teams and to make up for this student population? It's hard to kind of even read through some of these things because this is kind of the way that these things are phrased is in direct opposition to the initiatives that they actually represent. So this kind of foreign terrorist and national security, and to think about our students kind of classified in this way, it's very difficult. The America First Policy Directive to the Secretary of State. So in fact, this is interesting because we actually filed a really comprehensive proposal to the Department of State for their Bureau of Cultural and Education Affairs for a program that would welcome kind of young international leaders to come to New Orleans, work with Dillard, and study our festival culture, right? We had written a proposal where there was a lot to be learned about how New Orleans executes festivals in alignment with kind of material culture, right? And that this might be an applicable and transferable kind of business model for different African communities that have very similar material culture traditions that we celebrate in New Orleans. And we actually had a really favorable rating and review by the panel, and this was submitted last year just before I came, or right after I came, and they had cut the funding to Africa entirely, And so I think that was a kind of prescient understanding of where the Bureau was heading, that they were not going to be, and the reviewer confidentially told us, you need to talk to your legislators, you need to talk to your congresspeople and appeal to them because it had nothing to do with your proposal. They just eliminated the funding entirely to any programs in Africa. And now we see that this America First policy is really going to cut any state-funded support to these types of cultural educational programs abroad. And then protecting the American people against invasion. We know that they are challenging the kind of birthright rules around, having citizenship for individuals who are born in the country. We know that's going to be challenged in the courts. And so what I think is really a part of the strategy is to just kind of overwhelm everyone with so many different things at once that there's just not going to be an opportunity to respond sufficiently to any of them. And this is why I think it's a time when we just have to really pace ourselves and look very carefully at the implications of everything that comes down that impacts us. So let me see, this is this one. And then, I didn't do this. Okay, and then Title IX and sustainability. So this is currently, right now, like I said, we have a team in Washington right now meeting with the Department of Justice regarding a grant that we had received in support of curbing and addressing domestic violence against women, culturally based responses to domestic violence. And so we're trying to see what is going to actually happen with that funding. And then the recession of harmful executive orders and actions. And this was, again, the executive order that came out directly to refute the Inflation Reduction Act, which was in support of climate change, which we know is a direct target. And, again, we have particular vulnerabilities through the DOJ grant, which is gender-focused, and through the EPA grant, which is focused on climate change. And there are probably others. Again, this, a lot of this is coming day after day. We have not had the opportunity to huddle as a team. I've not had a chance to talk to Nichelle or Dr. Darwish or Dr. Broadway or any of our kind of core grant holders to really understand what their concerns are about the sustainability of funding. And let me see if I have the last slide. Yeah, so I did want to share with everybody where we are with spring enrollment, which, the hits just keep on coming. So our enrollment is down from the fall, which spring tends to be. We do know that there tends to be some attrition. But, what is particularly alarming is that we see a FTE under 1,000. And, Dillard may have been here before, but when we are looking at institutions that are very vulnerable, they tend to be those institutions that have lower than 1,000 students enrolled. Okay? So I'm going to pause right now and really kind of open it up for questions and discussion. One of the things that I did want to ask everybody to do, and I kind of challenged myself to do it today too, is if you took out a faculty and staff, right, who are here today, if you took out a pen and a paper, can you write down the names of 20 currently enrolled students? If you just start trying to call them to mind. 20 currently enrolled students. Can you just okay, yeah. If you're just thinking about it, right? Anybody who's teaching, I would expect you can recall 20 students. If you became personally in charge of their retention, you as a faculty member or as a staff member, above and beyond your current responsibilities with respect to your teaching load, with respect to kind of what your job duties are as a staff person, if you assumed the responsibility for those 20 students, if you made this commitment to yourself, to Dillard, what would you be doing? What would that look like? Could you stay personally in touch with these students, check in with them, talk to them, kind of work in tandem with their advisors? Could we create, because this is right here, this is among the things we control. And we really have to be in a space where we are doubling down on what we can control, because there's going to be a lot that we cannot control. I've been having conversations with Provost Buckles and Dr. Williams about, whether or not Dillard rounds up with grades, because this makes a difference for students retaining scholarships, whether they can stay enrolled, if they're going to lose their TOPS funding. We cannot afford to lose students over fractions of a point. I want people to really understand this, because students can take their aid and their not so horrible 2.9 GPA and easily go someplace else. Do people understand what I'm talking about? We can't squabble over, fractions of a point. We have got to be mindful of the student's experience here. I am working constantly with the facilities department, with, our response to work orders. This has been an ongoing challenge since I've been here. It's unacceptable. There is nothing, no excuse I am going to give for how we are managing the student experience at Dillard. I'm going to hold the students accountable and responsible for what they are supposed to do. But there are absolutely things that I see, that I'm aware of, that we are not going to be able to fix our infrastructure problems overnight, but we must be much better about communicating with students and their parents about where we are in these processes, what they can expect, giving them real timelines for when work orders will be addressed, where damaged property will be fixed, and we have to adhere to those things. And I am publicly saying, I will hold people accountable for this. Okay, because I know the breadth of the problem. I know it's not going to get fixed overnight. But parents and students, if you speak to them, earnestly and in a way that assures them that we have the situation under control. And again, the reality of today throws all of this further into question, because some of the resources that we were getting for clean energy and air quality, those things are in question now. That is the funding that we were hoping to apply to our new chillers, our HVAC system, and we don't know if that funding is going to be there now. So what will we do? But communication is key. And I want to make sure that we prioritize this. But, there is a part of me that does hold faith and confidence in the future still. And I do think that this is really an opportunity, for Dillard to reimagine itself, to really expedite our process of transformation, for us to no longer kind of lose focus on what really is not important and understand and prioritize what is important, okay? And for us to come together in a way that we as institutions always have. We are known for our resilience. We are known for our innovation. We are known for making a way out of no way. And this morning, with the news that's been, it feels like it's no way. It really does. It feels very, very daunting. But I also do recognize and appreciate that those feelings, that uncertainty, that doubt and that fear is part of the strategy. And if we kind of just rally and again, really take this opportunity, we are going to continue with our organizational culture assessment, because I think our culture is going to be really important right now. Our ability to work together, our ability to rally with one another, our ability to really support each other and not, kind of engage in this ongoing blame game about why things don't happen. If something is supposed to happen, I'm going to make sure it does, whether it's in my job description or not, whether it's in my lane or not. I'm going to make sure it happens because I have to think about the institution. At the faculty staff seminar, I talked about and gave out T-shirts that talked about, Fair Dillard first and forever. And it was a play on Fair Dillard being the first HBCU in the state of Louisiana, but also reminding us that we must put the institution first and understand what that means every day. What is something I can do to prioritize the institution? What is something that I can do to strengthen the institution, to reassure a student, to reassure parents, to reassure my colleagues that I'm here for them, that I'm here to support them, that I'm here to support the institution in every possible way. So, coming out of this, I want you to think about your 20 students. And we're going to talk more about, is there kind of an actual campaign? Can we put together a retention plan, a comprehensive institutional retention plan that then kind of funnels into departmental retention plans, program retention plans that support student matriculation that enhance the student experience at Dillard. We may really have to get to that, and we may have the opportunity to do it because some of the things that we were planning to do that were going to be funded through some of these federal resources, we may not be able to do those things. So where are we going to pivot and shift that focus? And I think that that pivot and that shift really needs to be on our students, but also on each other. Supporting each other, encouraging each other, recognizing that, I can't say it enough, these are really unprecedented times. What we see happening in this country, on the federal landscape, we have never had to deal with this before. And some would argue we've actually had to deal with worse in some ways. But what we are seeing is so insidious and so difficult to actually track and manage that we really have to shift our focus internally and think about what is the community that we are a part of? What is the contribution that we individually are making to the endurance and the enhancement of this community? I am still determined to do this job with joy. I really am. You know? Because that's what they do. They want to take your joy. They want to make you afraid. They want to make you think that, you know, the sky is falling. And today, in this room, we're a little chilly, but we're okay. You know? We're all right. There's some students that have some real challenges coming out of the snowstorm. You know, that's real. We have to support them. We have to assure them. We're going to work with them on filing insurance claims and making sure they're made whole. Those students didn't do anything to invite that challenge and that calamity into their lives. And we didn't either, other than, you know, our roof needing to be replaced and an unprecedented historic snowstorm hitting the city. And so those types of things we can expect to happen. But it is all in how we respond that makes all the difference. Emergencies are going to happen. Failures are going to happen. How are we going to respond to those things? So that is my challenge to everyone. You know, if we have alumni out there who are listening, please, please, please rally around your institution. I will always stand by my call for you to hold me accountable, okay? Because the buck stops with me. So if you have questions or concerns or issues, you know, you can direct them with me, but recognize we are in a very different environment right now. And it's not just Dillard, it is higher education across the board. And I would say it is our democracy across the board. But I think Dillard really does have an opportunity here to blaze a trail, serve as an example to the rest of higher education, how we will be resilient and respond to these challenges successfully and come out stronger in the end. So I thank you for listening, and I'll take your questions. No standing ovation.
Good morning, Dr. Guillory.
Please tell me your name.
My name is Praise. We've met multiple times before. I'm a RA. I also currently serve as the SGA treasurer.
Great.
My question to you is, as we've come out of a historic snowstorm last week, and as another one is set to come to our southern region, February 6th, possibly. What is the plan if that happens? Is there any plan to salt the university roads, provide any extra food for students, keep classes open? What is the university's plan if another snowstorm, such as the one that we had last week, hits us next week?
No, I think, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they've said that that storm is not likely to happen. Yeah, not here. So we do monitor these things. And I agree, Praise, that Our emergency planning can be better. Our emergency response can be better. Whether we're going to salt roads or, I have not even had an opportunity to get with my team to kind of do a debrief about how our response to the snowstorm, to talk about what worked, what didn't work. But we will do that. I'm scheduled to meet with students, particularly the students in Camper and Hartselle, where I know we had some of the greatest challenges with the snow, and we had to relocate some students. But I definitely would like to hear from you all about what you want to see work better. What didn't work for you all. If we did have another storm like this, what should we be prepared to do? Salting the roads, again, these are kind of municipal realities where it's not just a matter of like getting some salt and throwing it out. There are ways to, to actually administer that, to do that. And as far as I know, we are just really not equipped to do those types of things, to salt roads and even clear snow, which is why the whole region had to kind of shut down for an entire week, because not only are we not prepared for this at Dillard, we're not prepared for this in this region, okay? But your comfort and your care is important. You should have heat. You should have food. Your room should be clear of any moisture or any leaks. These are the commitments that we make to you. So I'll make sure, we have a meeting that is supposed to be happening with students, particularly from Camper or Hartselle, but from any of the residences or for any of the student organizations to talk about this. And I would love to have your perspective and insights in that conversation. I think we're working with Nevaeh. Is that how you pronounce her name? Yeah, so we're working with her to schedule that meeting specifically about the residence halls. Other questions? What are you all thinking about what's happening right now? What are some of the ideas you all have about, if Dillard can no longer depend on its federal support, how do we move forward?
We have really, we are not supposed to act rationally right now, okay? We have to hold our breath and just wait, I have a grant in the way, and yesterday I received 2 emails, one from Secretary of Defense, one from Secretary of Energy. And yet, today morning, the program officer, he's negotiating the budget with me. So let's wait and see. We don't have to react, just hold our breath and see what will happen. We know that President Trump, he has a lot of ideas, and it might be some of this will change, There is a Congress in place, there is a Senate in place, there is official everywhere. So we are the people who hold the keys, and will not be enforced, to follow whatever it is to survive at a piece of bread. It will not happen. So just wait. This is what I can say, just wait. But at the same time, we have to have plan B. What we'll do? Because we have vendors out there, they need their millions of dollars, which I spent. How I'm gonna do that, So there is a lot of issues. So my message here is don't react rationally, just hold your breath, wait, and we understand there is official working on behalf of our, community, and things will be better. I'm sure it will be better, okay? It looks like blue, very blue right now, but trust me.
But it's got to be Dillard blue.
Yeah, Dillard blue. Yeah, what else is they going to do for us? We are blue already.
Make it very blue.
We are very blue, so
Yes.
nothing will happen to us. It will be fine. It will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Darwish, for that encouragement and that optimism. But even something like the new residence hall opening, that is scheduled to be completed in June, and we are going for occupancy in the fall. We are promoting this right now with our new recruits, but we don't actually know if this is going to delay that. You know, we don't know.
Or we can be delayed 10 days, 2 weeks, 1 month, but it will open again.
It will.
It will open again. So every day we're going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Nobody will sleep hungry. Trust me. It will
I don't
be
know if our
right.
students agree with that, but,
If they have a problem, come and talk to me.
all right.
All right.
Y'all
Thank
don't like
you.
the food at Kearney? Y'all go see Dr. Darwish. Y'all heard him say it. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, we have one back here.
I really agree with the brilliant Dr. Darwish, who always keeps our office even more busy with all of the grants that I think he's amazing. Anyway, I'll say this, that nonpartisan here, when the current president left office, a lot of newspapers went into panic because he was the #1 seller of the New York Times and the Washington Post. So all of the oppositional newspapers lost a lot of money when he went out of town or when he left the office. So my point is, fear sells. I'd like to address, you mentioned what some of the things that we could do. And I'm not blaming anyone because I know it's a lack of resources, but when I first got here, I was really interested in building the Writing Center. And it's, I know a lot of people who struggled through school, through college, through graduate school, and they were able to go to their writing centers and get diagnosed, whether they had learning disabilities, which there are a plethora of. And it's my understanding that we don't have a lot of the capabilities to do that. And I know we have a writing center, I think, but the last one, when I went to look at it, it was in just one room. And you can't, I mean, people aren't going to, they're not going to unburden themselves with what they're going when there's a bunch of people in the room. And so I think the thing is so we're under 1,000 students. And I know people have kids, and but not all of us do. And some of us have kids that might be grown. And I think that everyone should try to figure out how to tutor a student. And we can do it during our office hours. I mean, not during our office hours, but during lunches. We can get here, but everybody should try to sign up, and it shouldn't be a Herculean task to do this. And I know there's legal probably issues, but can we bring some of us have wide contacts and are involved in many community activities. So if there's people from nonprofits or other universities, but I think a lot of our students might be struggling because is there a place to go where they can just get tutoring when they need it? And I think that's something that maybe we can all volunteer to do.
There are academic support services, and there is a tutoring center. I mean, that does exist. It's in Dent Hall. We are probably going to relocate it at some point. This was part of our kind of infrastructure revitalization plan that I'm putting on pause, only because to Dr. Darwish's point, I think it is still going to happen. I'm just not sure about the timelines. And so I'm just waiting before I unleash. There are some really exciting things that are underway. We are expanding our partnership with Baldwin and Company Books. I wanted to talk about that today. I'm going to hold off on it. You might see some announcements. There are some initiatives that we are launching. Right now, we actually have visitors on campus that are interested in making an investment in Cook, okay? But they are going to contribute one part of the programming, and they are expecting us to take care of some other things that we would be relying on some of our federal support to get it done. You see what I'm saying? But to your point, I agree. One of the things that I've been talking to Provost Buckles and Dr. Williams about is a kind of restructured first-year experience for our freshmen. And if you all recall the presentation I did during the Faculty Staff Institute, I talked about going back to basics, right? Real kind of fundamental things that we need to reinstate, if you will, along the lines of how we conduct business. But I also think about going back to basics for our students. I really want to ensure with some certainty that our students can demonstrate some proficiency in very fundamental, basic things like reading comprehension at a college level. All right? I know it's an unpopular thing to say, but I am concerned that some of our students really are not reading and comprehending at the level we expect them to be able to do at a college level. And to your point, that extends to writing. Critical thinking. Okay, I see you, Nick Harris, I'll call on you. Another thing that I'm really looking at a lot is AI. If you go down the rabbit hole of AI and how AI is impacting different sectors and how little education, particularly higher education, that is supposed to be preparing young people for the workforce, and we are not introducing fundamental parameters around AI to these students, it is like sending them out there with a slide ruler. And I am not exaggerating that. We might be preparing students for careers and jobs that won't even exist by the time they graduate, that will be obsolete. So when I'm thinking about a reimagined curriculum for our students, and honest faculty and staff, we got to be ready for this. And I'm going to equip you. Like, I'm going to be looking for faculty and staff who want to do a deep dive on AI. I want to have the money to train you. I've been talking to you all about your individual transformation, okay? The personal transformation that I would like to see for all of us. One of the things that I read recently was personal well-being. Personal well-being is the new gold standard for success. Personal well-being, right? What is the old gold standard for success? Well, salary, status, C-suite, corner office, promotion, all of that was the old gold standard for success. Excellence, right? That was the standard. Now, personal well-being. Why? Because we've seen now, too often, how so many people have achieved those things, but still struggled. Got the money, got the promotion, run the company, sold the company, still not happy, still not at peace. Are we preparing students for this new gold standard? Are we talking to students about their personal well-being at all? Maybe Rev does it in the chapel. Maybe if our students make it to a counselor, maybe a particular good advisor does it. But it is not a part of our core business. We've got to make this front and center. Our students need to leave Dillard the happiest, healthiest people they can possibly be. And we can't do that. They won't leave here if that's not who we are. If we're harboring bitterness, resentment, pettiness, if that's how we operate, if we're an institution that functions that way, our students see that. They feel it, okay? They internalize it. This is the work we have to do on ourselves, individually, as a community. These times demand this of us right now, because nothing is the way it was when we were in school. Nothing is the way it was when we were college students. Nothing. Right? So how different are we willing to make a Dillard experience? It starts with us. How much are we willing to invest in our own personal transformation as an individual? If I send you down the rabbit hole of AI, are you going to redesign your courses to accommodate that? Are you going to redesign a degree program that reflects the reality of what that sector looks like in 2030, right around the corner? Do you understand how all of this requires an emotional and psychological shift in all of us to really rethink how we do the work that we do? It won't matter what happens on the federal landscape if we can actually handle our internal business. It really won't. Because if we can actually become that institution that prepares students for that gold standard of success, of personal well-being, people will be lined up to come to Dillard. I promise you. The most popular class at Yale University is what? Happiness. They are paying to go to Yale University to study happiness. Right? Not economics. You know, that's probably happening too. But students are lined up for that course. It's free. It's online. We can all take it. We can all take the Yale University course in happiness. How will we do? I'm not sure. Nick, you had a question?
I know that Dr. Williams, I don't need that. You know, all right,
There you go.
I know. Thank you, man. You know,
There you
this,
go.
you know. Yeah. But I really think that entrepreneurship is very important. And you know, I was sitting down thinking that when I finished school from Southern University in Baton Rouge, started off on the quota system, and the quota system allowed people of color an opportunity to walk through the doors. But our instructor told us exactly what we had to do. And Ms. Brown, she said, once you get your foot in, you in there. Now it's up to you to keep up with it. Then we had affirmative action. So everything is in a circle, okay? But I do believe that the only thing that is managed in our communities is entrepreneurship. And it's important for us to support businesses and for you to know something about starting and having a business. Are we teaching kids today how to go and work for someone else? Okay? But at the same time, those opportunities just may not be there like they were. You know, things have changed. But
Nick,
what hasn't changed?
Nick, according to the articles, we're not even teaching students how to go and work for somebody else.
What are we doing? What are they doing?
Because they're starting these jobs and they're not able to stay in these jobs.
And see, that's the sad part about it, okay? But, you know, the idea of starting from the beginning, from the time they walk through the door, the importance of how you submit a bid, entrepreneurship, marketing, how you market yourself, those type things are important. That's how a neighborhood sustains through entrepreneurship. So I think that what Dr. Williams is doing in his class, but it should be throughout the entire university and from the time they walk in. We have to find some kind of way to do it.
I agree. No question about it. You know, in the new residence halls, we are actually going to be encouraging like student pop-ups as we're talking about a new bookstore, you know, encouraging students to whatever kind of products or services they provide. We know there's like a barbershop that is run out of maybe I think it's Williams, you know. Absolutely, but it's even more than that. Even and on the heels of entrepreneurship, kind of on the flip side of that coin, Nick, is encouraging students to run for office. You know, I want students to understand like the presidential election in November was really important. One of the things I talked to y'all about, every election is important, and even more so moving forward. All right, so we also have to figure out a way to get students more politically engaged, to really understand and pay attention to what is happening on the political landscape, and to imagine themselves as one day becoming an elected official, especially our SGA officers. Y'all are already very familiar with leadership and representation, you know? Have you ever thought about running for office? Have you ever thought about supporting a candidate in a campaign? Because that's how you actually see what it takes. And that's going to be that much more important with midterm elections, with representation in the Senate, in the House. All of that is critical right now, critical. So as we talk to students about entrepreneurship and whatnot, we also need to kind of expand their horizons with the options and opportunities for career exploration. I'm going to get Dr. Williams in the back, and then.
All right,
Yes.
thank you, Dr. Guillory, for your transparency. I think one of the questions I know that a lot of people have is, while we're waiting, I think you said February 10th?
Right
I guess
now.
the question would be, how long can we wait before jobs are affected that are impacted by this, this decision?
That's a great question, and it's a question I have as well. And we just don't know, honestly. We are going to have to, again, Ed couldn't be here today, but I know he hasn't even really studied this yet himself, so I will ask for, we do have, I think, even a senior leadership meeting this week that is scheduled. And I was questioning whether we still need it since we were going to have this meeting, but I will see if we can have some of those kind of like estimated answers. Because I have wondered what is going to be the temporary fix. I've already talked to some trustees that we would be able to temporarily borrow from the endowment if we had to kind of just to patch things. But that's, you know, that is not at all a long-term solution, especially if we are recognizing that there is going to be some tightening of the belt in some ways for the next 4 years. Yes. You too quiet, darling. You gotta get a mic.
Okay. I'll give you the mic afterwards. Is that okay? Okay.
She got the mic.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I had the mic. I just, wanted to go back to, it's a lot of things. I think a lot of us are processing and trying to reimagine basically how we can move forward. I mean, this is a critical time, and when I think about the generations that came before us, we have to tap into that same energy because they didn't have any financial aid or very rare, scholarships. But I wanted to just circle back on the internal and tightening up just our internal, what we can do. And I wanted to leave it out there, just those who are interested in supporting those departments that need help, to us to see what we can do. I know that, we're behind on paying people, what can we do? Is there something we can do to help with that? Is it, students who are struggling? Can we, like you said, have a list of those 20 students so we can just adopt them and, go back to the principles of what HBCUs were all about? And bringing the culture back, because it's going to be a lot of chaos that is going to come in these times in the next 4 years. And Dillard should be a hub of, conversation, activism, and I know that we're underfunded. I know we're down to 1,000, but this is the time for us to figure out how we can rise up in this situation and assist everyone. But we've got to get this internal part together, the infrastructure part about paying people, what Dr. Darwish was talking about, as well as making sure that, the facilities, at least the foundation is going, And I just wanted to commit myself personally, to making sure that whatever department needs help to, or whatever student needs help, to put my foot forward on that.
We appreciate that. And Ms. Cochran, right, next. But it's internal and it's external, so supporting each other. Really, if we can formalize this process of even beyond an advisor, right? We know advisors can be very overwhelmed with supporting students, but if we all kind of share the responsibility of working with students, knowing students, to your point, that is kind of the part and parcel of HBC culture, that high-touch culture where students feel cared for. And I'm going to just be honest, I don't think students feel cared for here. You know, I think that they feel a lot of our policies and practices are overly punitive, that they don't get the kind of response that they should be getting for the amount of money that they're paying. We have to address that. And I have to hold people accountable for that because, again, at the end of the day, when problems can't be solved overnight, how you communicate that makes all the difference. Over-communicating it. We are aware of it. We are on top of it. We know about this. This is what we're telling. We're following up with you. We promised you this, okay? It's running behind. I just want you to know it's going to be late. Did somebody come? Did they fix the problem? Are you okay? You know? Those types of conversations with our students and then by extension with each other. I saw you submitted this. Did this get taken care of? Did somebody do this for you? Did they come? Do you have it? Do we talk to each other like that? No, we don't. We do not demonstrate the level of care and concern for each other that is reflective of a loving community. We don't. I've seen it. And that has to change. As much as we talk about how much we value Dillard, how much we love Dillard, we don't show that with how we act, with each other, and by extension, with the students. Yes, in the back.
Okay, I have two problems.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Cochran. No, Ms. Cochran, please. I'm sorry. No, and then because she was deferred.
All right, so my question is, I know that in the landscape that we're in right now, we're talking about funding and things being pulled, but larger institutions have partnerships with corporations and things of that nature that are also able to provide monies to do certain things. Is Dillard partnered with any corporations or public entities that would be able to provide funding for, like, you know, we have infrastructure issues? Are we partnered with companies like Entergy or something like that that would be able to provide offsetting funds that aren't federal so that we can get those things done? Same thing with education. Are we partnered with, I can't think of the name of the people, but I'm looking at PBS.
Oh, there are
and I see-
tons.
but
Lumina Foundation.
Are there any corporations that we're partnered with that we could receive funding from? And if we're not, is that something that's on the table?
I would say everything's on the table. We are not partnered in that way right now. And I would dare say that we're seeing more institutions, more companies limiting their engagement with minority-serving institutions, right? Out of the fear of the backlash of the DEI, you know, kind of walk back. You know, part of my kind of internal strategy, I'll just show my hand to you guys. I really want Dillard to create this buzz about how different we are going to be, that we are doing something different with our freshman year experience, or with this new kind of required AI course that our students have to take, and our faculty have mastered this, that we've redesigned our curricula because we are taking into consideration the modern workforce. And I think, honestly, if we create enough of a buzz around that, people like Mackenzie Scott will see us. Companies that you're talking about will say, oh yeah, that school gets it. They get it. They understand what is required. We start really talking about the well-being of our students and our community in a real kind of tangible way, that it gets incorporated into our curriculum, that we have a whole agenda about how we work together, how we collaborate. If we do that internal work and we promote it, We will find funders. I don't doubt, and it isn't about DEI or minority anything. It is really about providing an education for the 21st century. You know, that is what it ultimately will be about. It will be about a community that is responsive to the realities that we are in. And we're not waiting for the government to figure out what they're doing. We're fixing our internal challenges. We are adjusting and modifying and enhancing our curriculum to be more responsive and real world for kind of 21st century realities. People will fund us. We will find that money. But we have to do that work first. Yes, sorry.
Okay, I ran into a problem. So I have two problems right now, is that I don't know the organization structure of Dillard, and I had a parent that called me because she knew I still worked here. Her daughter has been accepted here for the spring, but she doesn't know anybody, or she wasn't getting any information, and I couldn't tell her, but I took her number and I did some research. I didn't shuffle Nicole off, but my thing is I don't know the organization, and that phone system, whenever we call somebody, it goes into voicemail, so people on the outside are getting voicemails, they're not getting feedback. And her daughter has been coming here for the summers for Darwish's programs and things, but she says Southern University is being in contact and really courting her, although her daughter wants to come here. So organizational chart would help, and somebody to explain or how I can get through this Dillard University phone system when somebody is calling me about something that they need addressed.
People, we got to answer the phone. I talked about this in Faculty Staff Institute. And, you know, you got a cheat code. You can just forward your office phone to your cell phone. You really can. It does happen. It does work. Okay? I will make sure the current org chart, we have one. I thought it was circulated after our last town hall. I will see if we can get it posted at the HR webpage so you can just at least see the org chart. It will probably change, okay? Because we are still filling critical vacancies right now, but you should at least, we are required by our accreditors to ensure people have access to the org chart, okay? But I will definitely be talking to our cabinet members and really making it imperative, and even playing secret shopper, calling offices randomly and seeing if phones get answered. First rule of business, answer the phone. Return a phone call. Give people the courtesy of a human being. You know, again, last time I checked, things have changed a lot at Dillard, but these are still actually paid jobs. Am I mistaken? The jobs, job duties, responsibilities, expectations, okay? Y'all may feel it's not paying enough, and we can talk about that, but they are jobs. You're not really doing anyone a favor being here. We appreciate you, and you might consider it service, given how much you're paid, but it is a job. There are expectations. And this is part of what we'll be talking about. And it's not to like come down hard on people, but are you clear about what you're working towards? Are you clear about the objectives? Are you clear about what success looks like for your unit? Have we talked about this? And I'll be, you know, going around, meeting with every unit, talking about this, like, let's define success. And every unit will have, we need at Dillard a standardized response time, okay? If you call, you should be able to get a person. And if that person was not able to answer your question or solve your problem, you should hear back from the person who can within 24 hours. I don't think that's that hard. I don't think that's really too much to ask. And especially a student who wants to come here, this is a nightmare. And I've told you, the faculty and staff, one of our strengths is I know, okay? I'm kind of a newly minted president. I know how many people are lined up out there to support Dillard. They are out there. What is our greatest challenge? Us. We are. They call. Somebody literally called the president's office. I'm just trying to give Dillard a check. Okay? I'm just trying to give Dillard a check. I don't know who to call. You know, this isn't okay, people. I mean, again, it's not like, okay, I'm going to make sure my calls get forwarded to my cell phone, because I'm probably not going to be here all the time for whatever reason. We can talk about that. But we need to be strategic and concerted in this action. And maybe I will start with the cabinet and talk about this. And what is the expectation? Because every one of our units reports up to a cabinet member. And so we will agree on, yes, it will be unacceptable if somebody calls an office and can't get somebody. And if we find that this happens continuously and it is not rectified, okay, well, we're clear about institutional priorities. This is so basic, I can't believe I'm actually standing up here talking about this. But we have to fix this. And if you don't know how to forward your phone, call IT. Call my office. Send me an email. I need to make sure my phone, and look, I'm cool. You know, people, and we might have to revisit remote work policies if this is the result of it. Okay, that nobody, and I don't want to do that, because I do really believe we can actually be productive and have some people periodically working remote for different reasons. You know, I think that that can happen, but we still have to be very responsive. I know people just being on campus doesn't necessarily mean people are going to be answering the phone. So these are back to basic kind of things. We have to have an institutional standard for customer service. We have to. That extends to our students, that extends to our stakeholders, families, job candidates, donors, all the people that we are now really, 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 really relying on because of this new environment. We have to rely on these people. We have to inspire their confidence in us. Yes, I see a question in the back.
Hello, my name is Kayla Hannigan. I'm a senior biology major, and I just wanted to make a comment about what you said previously about well-being and happiness. I do think that's an extremely important component within our Dillard community. And schools like Yale, they have classes like happiness and they have a lot of happy students and happy faculty because they have their basic needs met. They have comfortable, safe housing. They have access to affordable, fresh foods. They have reliable transportation, all these types of things. And so therefore they can worry about how to meditate better or be happy. And I think when we talk about communities like Dillard or just the greater New Orleans area in general, happiness as an individual commitment is out of the question. I think that it's a huge community effort. So to task Dillard students, faculty, staff with taking care of our well-being, the question is not the statement is not to take care of our well-being. I think it's a question of how do we take care of our well-being, and the answer is support. And then we have to ask our faculty and our staff, what do you need to feel supported by Dillard? I think that we have a great staff and community here at Dillard who have so many resources, education, and all those types of things to provide to students. But they can't do those things if they don't feel supported by Dillard, if they don't feel heard by Dillard, or if they don't have the resources, amenities, or communication from your office to do these things at Dillard. So yeah, I feel like the answer is to support our faculty and staff so that they are able to push initiatives to our students, provide internships, provide research opportunities, and all of these types of things, because it's completely out of the question to do anything at Dillard without community effort. And also to employ trust into our communities, like how do we retain confidence for Dillard, like you just stated? How do we make our community trust Dillard? And the answer is to talk to the community. It's well known within the Black community, like to have trust, you need to foster a relationship. We see it in education. That's the best way to get your students to perform the best, is to have a genuine relationship with them. So if you're not having conversations with faculty, productive conversations, if they don't feel heard, if they don't feel safe, same for students, then I think that confidence just will not be there for the community. It will not be there for students. It will not be there for staff. So I think, like, first off, just hearing and taking care of the people who are already here and asking them what are their needs and how do they need to feel supported, because I think it's obvious we have a lot of issues at Dillard that we all know about, but it's easy to say we need to pick up the phone, but why are they not picking up the phone? You know, what do they have to do in that office that's prohibiting them from picking up the phone? What other tasks do they have that are not being mediated to other staff appropriately that's causing them to do those things? And so sometimes it can be frustrating. I don't answer the phones, I don't know. But I can imagine it can be frustrating to hear that, you know, you need to do this, that, and the other. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't have the ability to do 10 things with your 2 hands, you know, I think that definitely does not help the confidence portion. And marketing, like you said, is also an important component. But how are we marketing Dillard? How are we marketing our staff? How are we supporting them with their strong initiatives for all their research opportunities and all those things? How are we marketing them to the greater public to show them, hey, we're doing great things at Dillard too? We definitely have the ability to attract higher caliber of students, but with higher caliber of students, you need higher caliber of professors, which we have, but do they have the ability to do the higher caliber work? That's it.
And your name's Kayla?
Kayla Hennigan.
Kaylin? Oh, you're the student I'm
Kayla
communicating.
Hennigan.
That you're
Yeah.
the one I'm communicating with.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you. Kayla, before you leave, I do want to point out to you, darling, Yale is offering that course because their students struggle with happiness as much as anybody does. All right? Don't ever be lulled into thinking that just because people have material comforts that they're somehow happier. Yes, we have, like, what is it, Maslov's hierarchy of needs, right? And we know that it impacts students' capacity to study and learn and really be present. That is real. But also recognize that our individual personal well-being is up to us. And that is what we actually have to teach everybody here. We are responsible for our happiness, but we want to make sure we support you, including our faculty and staff, and I really appreciate that you posited that question, because we will ask faculty and staff, you know, what do you need, not to just feel supported at Dillard, because I want to know that, but what do you need on a more personal level to be happier? Have we answered this question for ourselves? You know, on a personal level, this is a question we all have to really wrestle with, I feel, in these times. Because there's so much that is going to come after us and come at us that is going to make us feel really unhappy. That's going to make us feel really scared and really doubtful. So how do we really lock into a sense of personal well-being? And I think that that is exactly the kind of work that a university should be doing. As a community coming together to support each other, to make each other feel happier, well, and whole. We have the benefit and the luxury of being a part of a community. Can we not support each other in that way? You know? So this is part of what I am talking to Provost Buckles, Dr. Williams about as we are thinking about our curriculum. Also, as we are talking about the organizational culture work, these are the things we are talking about. This is culture. And before we start talking about updates to the strategic plan, I want us to be really clear about where we are with our culture and how do we make it better. And I actually want to hear from each of you individually, how do I help you to be healthier? How do I help you to be happier? What do you want to know more about? What training would you like to have? Starting with your phone. You know? So Kayla, thank you. Thank you for that. And we'll talk more soon, right? You got my email? Okay. Did you answer it? Okay. All right. Looking for it. All right. Thank you. Yes. Question?
My name is Angela, and I wanted to make a comment about the phone. The phone in PSB comes to my line. Every phone call for PSB for some reason comes to 4701.
Every phone?
Yes, so I spend a lot of time sending calls all over the university to, I have the phone tree, and I spend a lot of time sending calls to other people's offices looking for Dr. Darwish or Dr. Kondo or whoever, or I look up people's extensions to try not to send people back to the phone tree. And if I send them there and they can't get anybody, the phone tree will send them back to my line, and I try to answer their situation the best way that I know how, or I get the information and try to call them back. But I'm not sure if you can help with that or if that's an IT situation or whatever. But for the most part, most of the calls that come to PSB come to my extension.
I will definitely talk to IT and understand if there are any kind of technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we just need a reliable system where we know if we send people to these 10 numbers, that
Yes.
at all times, these 10 numbers will be answered,
Mm-hmm.
and these people will be able to help in some way. They will be able to answer questions or put people in touch with the right people or send them to the right website. It's just 10 people. But we need to know, I'm going to send you to this person, and we can break it down and like kind of categorize it. It's because people are typically calling for the same reasons, like financial aid, registration, admissions and recruitment. We know typically what people are looking for. So thank you for pointing that out to us. It does signal and point to like a technical question about how do the phones work? And where do calls come into? Because the idea that you're the sole person for all of PSB. Turquoise? Everybody calls Turquoise.
She get here looking for her daughter.
Gotcha. Ms. Turquoise?
And so, one of the things that there's in the settings, so when you call the office, it goes straight to voicemail if somebody's on the phone. Mine's don't, because I figured it out, right? You have to go into your settings to disable that. So if you're on the phone and a phone call is coming through, then you can receive that call. If a person is calling you and you have not disabled that setting, unless they leave a message, you will never know that a call is coming through. So I just played with it, but in the setting, you can change that as well. The message should come to your email.
Right, and not
then-
just your voicemail.
Yeah, and then I know for that phone line, Ms. Stevens, like there's a two lines that was intertwined with that line, so that's why I thought they maybe fixed it, which was the Verizon, and then I think Dr. Darwish line, but yeah, that's a technical thing.
We'll definitely look at the technical aspects of the phone system, and this is something we're just going to fix.
Yeah.
I'm
And
going to
then-
commit to fixing it, and I'm going to test it. And I'm going to ask people to call. I'm going to tell my daddy, call Dillard. You know, just look online and just pick an office and just call Dillard, you know, and see if you get a, you know, he's retired. He needs something else to do. You know, he'll be happy to help. Just make a record. Call Dillard offices, make up something, you know, ask how much tuition is, you know. But we need to try this. We need some secret shoppers to test our efficiency with our customer service and our responsiveness to everybody. Yes, Malik?
I was gonna say one other thing. The org chart is on ADP. for all the-
It's on ADP?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's always on there, yeah.
Yes, okay. I'll have Malik and then in the back.
Thank you so much for your time in this conversation. I think a lot of people, and I've been here for a while, there's a level of disconnect and trauma that we have never dealt with. There's trauma of our fellow colleagues being let go. There's trauma through these storms. There's a level of trauma that, as a whole, our community body has never got a chance to process. That's number one. So there's a level of disconnects because there's a level of trauma at the university. Also, is there any plans to do an institutional study as we're sitting in this moment of reset because of whatever going on federally and et cetera, some type of real communalized throughout department study of the institution of where we are and where we want to be throughout data, study, research, history, and future projections of where we want to be in the next 20, 30 years. We have a ton of university institutional self-studies dating back from the 40s all the way up until Dr. Lomax. But I don't see any studies. And I think we are at a point. Another thing is, like you say, going back to the basics. You know, we're entering February, we're at HBCU, and I know Nick, I know Zella put their own individual Black history programs, but as an institution, we have not made Black history at a Black university a priority because the faculty does not have a Lyceum committee to put on programs and invite speakers and et cetera. So there are several really institutional disconnects that it was disconnected, whether it be for funding years ago because of certain issues, that certain things was never reconnected back again after certain things happened, and then it was fixed and it was never reconnected again. So I really would like for us to really have a self-infused moment of studying each other, studying what we do, what different departments do, and making sure that we're all working together collaboratively. Also, I can only speak for the library. Every work study student we have, they don't just come to work. We still keep in contact. Actually, that's one of our former work study students who just finished from Dillard and worked at Dillard. We keep in contact with all of our work study students. We see them through grad school. We had one that took 6-7 years to graduate from Dillard, but we ensured that that person was going to graduate. So we had meetings. We see what their job perspectives are, what they're doing in the summer. So I think the staff does amazing, and the faculty as well, do an amazing job with. So when the students say there's a disconnect, I think they're really talking about administration, and they don't get heard from the higher ups, because we're always talking to students. We're always engaging them. We are there with them when they're in the study hall for 12, 11 o'clock at night. So we see each other and we communicate, but I think they feel like there's a disconnection between higher administration, and that same disconnect, faculty and staff feel that disconnected as well. So I think we appreciate this conversation, but like I said, those level of trauma, those level of things that was never reconnected, we really need to do some type of self-study. And also, I know we're worried about Trump, but Dillard been here before. We've been through Jim Crow, we went through World War I, went through World War II. All of those we went through, we was burned out. We went through lynching. All of that we have been through, and we have that same DNA inside of us that's going to get us through a Trump era. But we just have to come together as a community and make it a point that we're unified. My last thing is I joined up for DUPAD, and I never heard back from
Dr. Teamer?
well, not from Dr. Teamer, but from the team of how can we help
Yes.
recruit students. You know, I want to do my part in whatever I can do to recruit students for Dillard. Never heard anything back from that program. So I want to see, I mean, I don't know if it's too late. I think we still recruit students at this time. But how can we, at this part, impact the numbers, not only with retention, but also getting somebody to come to Dillard in the next year?
Well, thank you for those comments, Malik. And your request for a self-study, well, partly that's what this organizational culture study is about, to start with. You know, I think it is really important to assess where we are, where we think we are, to really kind of deal with our interactions with each other. The question of trauma will come up there. You know, that will be at least called out through this study. And then we have to think about how are we going to respond to the data that we collect. Now, this again is internal workings. This is not goal setting. This is not strategic planning. It's the step before we get to those things, right? Because there's no point in us claiming, well, we want to hit these targets and we want to do this when we won't even return each other's phone call. All right? So that is part of the self-study that we are doing. It is an organizational culture study. You all met Dr. Hutchins during the Faculty Staff Institute. He will be coming on campus, doing focus groups. We will be pushing out the survey, which I ask everybody to complete. And all I will ask is that we all commit to doing what we have to do to rally this community. And if you don't have it in you to do that, tell us and let us help you. If you're really mad, if you're really bitter, if you're really angry, Dr. Hutchins is, you know, you might not want to tell me about it, but Dr. Hutchins will hear you out and talk to you about what you need. How do you feel more supported? What training do you need? I know a lot of people at Dillard need training. I know that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we should expect to participate in training on a regular basis because our sectors are changing. You know, everything that we do, the way we do our work, our systems, our platforms are changing. We should plan to be training all the time. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying you can't do your job. You know, I'm just saying that we need to have regular training, checking in, looking at how are we doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. And are we doing it efficiently? You know, so I really do appreciate that comment about trauma because that's why I'm talking about happiness. That's why I'm talking about personal well-being. You know, to me, that comes first because if you're not happy in and of yourself, how are you going to support our students? You know, what are you bringing to this campus every day? And we can help you think through that and do what we can to support you in a real way. I mean, this is not just kind of Pollyanna, you know, mamby-pamby stuff. Like, I really want to help this community feel better, do well, be happy. You know, dare we imagine that in this administration, this becomes the happiest campus it's ever been? Can we dare to imagine that? Because we have to be. Because we have to be. We have to choose. We are not going to succumb to all the fear-mongering and the doubt. And in fact, we actually go in the opposite direction. We are going to lean into each other, supporting each other, you know, because when you talk about Jim Crow and World War I and World War II and all of the horrific things that campuses like Dillard came through, I promise you we were a tighter community then. I promise you we relied on each other, we trusted each other, we believed each other, we showed up for each other. We wouldn't have gotten through those things if we didn't. Of course, there were going to be a couple of, you know, kind of doubters, we're not sure about them, okay? They're always there. But holistically, as a community, that is what we did. And I'm not sure how we came to the place where we are, and it doesn't really matter. To your point, we've been through a lot, and we've never had periods of healing. I'm the first to say we assumed a lot coming out of that pandemic. We thought people could just show back up on these campuses and in these workplaces, turn the computers on, turn on the lights, and pick up things right where they were left off, and that's not how it works. You know, people are dealing with a lot of trauma just coming out of the pandemic just 2 years ago. And we have not really dealt with that. We have not dealt with how different the workforce is, how different our expectations are for our own lives, what's important to us, how we didn't feel supported one way or the other by Dillard University. Okay, I'll acknowledge that. I'll take that on. But now I'm trying to give you a new ticket. I'm trying to give you a new ticket to think about where you are in your life and what do you want for your future. Because these are the kind of questions you have to ask the students, right? And if you're not clear about that for yourself, what kind of support are you really giving our students? Seriously. Okay. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Okay. I'm Alika. I work in institutional advancement as the annual fund officer. Before I start, I would just like to apologize because my thoughts are just running rapid right now. The first thing that I would like to acknowledge was Ms. Cochran when she said something about getting funds from corporations and things like that. Our team has actually done that, but I'll allow Dr. Stewart to speak on that because he does more of that work. The other thing is I started here in October, and my biggest frustration has been the lack of communication, as everyone has mentioned, across campus. And a big part of my work is going out, speaking with alumni, telling them all about the great things that are happening on Dillard's campus. However, I don't even have information to do that. So I don't feel confident going out to alumni and telling them about these great things. So during the Faculty and Staff Institute, people were talking about all the things that they have done. I don't think anyone on my team was aware of the things that were going on. But that would have been great information to share out with the alum, to let them know, like, hey, we're doing this really great thing. And that could be a attention drawer for us to receive more funds from alum and other folks in the community. So I took it upon myself. I sent out a survey to faculty and staff to ask them, like, hey, help me tell your story about your department, whatever the case may be. I think I only received 6 responses, and I sent it to 30 people. So I'm asking, I hear everybody is like, we don't know where funding is gonna come from. I'm asking y'all to help me help the students because that's the only way we're gonna succeed. You tell your story better than I can. So I would like to hear your achievements, your challenges, whatever the case is, but that helps me tell your story. That helps us get funding and continue to help the university thrive. The last thing I will say is that we're talking about not getting external support, but we're also not getting internal support. The support starts from within, so whenever people are seeing like, oh, Dillard believes in whatever they're doing, other people will see that, and the funds will continue to flow in. So I want everybody to keep in mind that it's not external issues, it's internal that we need to work on first. Thank you.
Thank you, and that just reiterates what I'm trying to focus on, that we need to get our internal systems, communication. I want to point out again, Ms. Tara Cunningham, class of 99. I got it right. Gold star for me. But she is our new director of communication. And so to your point, and this is one of the things I've heard continuously when I came to Dillard first, was that, you know, Dillard doesn't market itself well. It doesn't promote what's going on campus. we had been able to kind of rely on word of mouth and our alumni to bring. None of that is really dependable anymore. We've got to be marketing. We have got to be putting out words. And I already feel the difference that Tara has made. And you all need to get together, and making sure that we are doing these things in a concerted effort, because we don't want you to send out a survey and then Tara sends out a survey and then it's like, well, I just answered that. And it's like, no, that was for IA, that wasn't for comms. So we again, it's just really getting organized and doing things in the most efficient way so that we can get the best results, But I definitely appreciate what you're saying. And I didn't mean to say that we don't get any corporate support. We absolutely get corporate funding and corporate support. That's part of the work that is done in institutional advancement. But we're talking about that sustained, prolonged support, right, that we get through something like Title III, all right? $20 million. If we can find a corporation that's going to pen a $20 million check like we were getting from the EPA grant, we haven't seen, I don't think, to that level of corporate support. And that's a whole, that's kind of like Mackenzie Scott money. And that's what we want. That's the kind of attention we want to get. Like, oh yeah, that little school in New Orleans, they're doing some different stuff. They on something else. And we the people who are all on something else all the time. Okay? So that's not new to us, to be doing things differently, to stand out, to, kind of be the trendsetter, the trailblazer. That's who we are. But for some reason, we're not doing that at Dillard. Not collectively, not unified. So we really have to figure out how we can get of one accord and agree we are going in this direction. We're going to do it, all of us. We're going to each do what it's going to take to do this. Yeah, Kendrick?
My name is Dr. Kendrick Stewart, interim VP of advancement. So we talk a lot about corporations. We talk a lot about finding different sources of funding is what we're looking at. And so what we've done for the IA team now, we have completely changed the culture and the way we do things. So in the past, Dillard has been great at friend raising. So currently right now, we are fundraising. And so we are reaching out to those corporations, and we do have a lot of donations from corporations. I have a list of them, and I can tell you right now, as of today, so our corporate funding right now, we're looking at over probably $1 million right now. And so what we are looking for is those $20 million, those $15 million. And so what Malika was saying, what helps us help you is that we understand and we have your stories. So one of the issues that we have is some of the great things that everyone is doing that we don't know about it. So what brings corporations in to us is that the great things that we're doing, like Dr. A, all those things, like nursing, everything that's going on, that we are aware of grants that you guys are working on. We're some of the ones that have to file these progress reports that are quarterly and yearly. And if we are delinquent with these reports, that affects funding. When we reach out to different corporations, the first thing they ask you is your giving ratio and how have you filed with different entities for your progress reports. If you are late, that affects other grants, that affects other funding sources. So what we're asking in IA is that you guys help us help Dillard. We not only need to know your stories, if you're applying for a grant, please let us help you. Let us know. We're recording this. Trust me, I've heard it a couple times. IA is trying to steal your money. Guys, we don't steal money. We raise money for the university. IA doesn't spend money. We raise money for the university. So we need to know when these things are due, but it also, when I go out to different corporations, and we've been having them come to the university. We've had 2 Fortune 400 companies come to the university that has never stepped foot on an HBCU before. They're coming again during Mardi Gras. They're coming again during Bayou Classic. Super Bowl. We're doing this, we're changing the culture, but we need the faculty and staff and anyone else that's writing grants and also going out to help us. We've sent out surveys with no response. We've sent those surveys out, I know, a minimum of 3 times. So we have newsletters that's coming out. We have all kind of other initiatives that we're putting together now to change the culture and the way we've done things in the past. We're pivoting because of where we are in society today from friend raising to true fundraising. That's a huge pivot that Dillard has not done in the past. We're there now. We're trying to find different streams of revenue, but we need your help to help Dillard.
Any other questions? No, so for our internal staff, we will still have our senior leadership, Presidential Leadership Council meeting. I think that's this week, maybe Wednesday. Tomorrow, is it tomorrow? So that'll be an opportunity for us to kind of gather in a smaller group and strategize and talk about what this looks like, kicking off it's tomorrow. So we will have that at 2 o'clock. So your leadership groups, and we're still working on the restructuring. There is still some internal stuff that we have to work on that will change the org chart moving forward, but Ms. Turkweed did indicate that the org chart is available in ADP, and I'll also see if we can put it at the HR website. And then I will also be on hand to meet with the faculty as a part of like General Assembly. I'm usually in those meetings as well. There's a lot of thinking through the future that we just have to do. As Dr. Stewart mentioned the Super Bowl, we did send out a communication to everyone about students and their participation in Super Bowl activities. Please be mindful of that, and the students do have to provide sufficient documentation to participate in these activities. But if they do have a real opportunity, not just to go party, but, you know, partying can look different ways. Super Bowl is such a historic moment and a rare opportunity for a city. And if our students have an opportunity to participate in these experiences, please give them the latitude to do so and encourage them to think about, you know, maybe even give them an assignment if they're going to miss class, you know, something that they can write about. Look, our SGA president is looking very skeptical of that. But, you know, it's always helpful to be thoughtful and mindful about what am I learning here? I'm in this experience. I'm meeting these people. I am, you know, probably experiencing this perhaps for the first and only time in your life. What does it mean? What are you taking away with you? You know, and so I would love to see us work in partnership with our students who have opportunities to participate in Super Bowl activities, that we work it into a part of their learning experience here at Dillard, okay? So if there are no other questions, comments, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I really want to again, recommit to partnering with you, not just to make Dillard a better place, not only to give our students a better experience, but to make all of our lives better. You know, and I'm not taking that on personally, but I do want you to feel that this community and this campus is a place of real support. It's a place of real opportunity. It's a place of real innovation and a place where you can feel supported in realizing some very personal things for yourself. So just let's talk about what that looks like for you, you know. But we have to be very actively engaged in this transformation at every level, at the level of us as individuals, at the campus level, at the level for our students. Because I think that it is undoubtedly the only way to kind of survive the tumult that we're going through, but to ensure that Dillard comes out on the other side of this an exemplar in higher education of what is possible for an institution like ours. So thank you all so much today.